Of course, I also greet our esteemed panellists and our moderator, Niti, with a particularly warm welcome and deep gratitude for your willingness to participate in a candid conversation today about menopause. Dr. Niti Ariel Kanal, lecturer in sociology at Tribhuvan University, will introduce our panellists in some detail, but I wanted to recognise that each one of you is an extraordinary individual, and we're so privileged to hear from you today. I've been struck since arriving in Nepal in early 2021 how often I see news reports, workshops and academic writing about menstruation practices in Nepal. The communications campaign to address chowpatty and other social attitudes to menstruation is far-reaching and crucial, and I've been delighted to see so many activists taking up this cause. But at the other end of the menses spectrum, the continuum, namely menopause, in Nepal, as in Australia, very little is said. There is a paucity of research and ongoing hesitation to engage in public discussion about the impacts of menopause on women, their bodies, their psyches, and their professional lives. Thankfully, this is shifting, and we're demonstrating that here today with our Menopause to Menopeak event. Just as it's also been demonstrated by coverage in Australia's public broadcaster, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, and recent headlines from my ABC News feed included an article titled "Women Fed Up with Suffering in Silence Say Menopause is Everyone's Issue. Here's Why." And the article went on to quote health professionals as saying that better understanding of menopause will lead to better outcomes for women, particularly in the workplace. It talked about the need for GP training from undergraduate years to postgraduate so that women no longer had to find doctors specifically focused on women's health to provide advice about menopause. All doctors should be able to talk about this. It also talked about the benefits to society, to all of society, and to economies if proper attention were given to menopause. I read the article with interest because, like many of us here, I've lived through a menopausal decade or so of night sweats, of increased anxiety, of brain fog, a propensity to depression, and the plethora of challenges of the aging body.
As we all know that when the Mother Nature is in turbulence or destruction, we all suffer. And nowadays, environmental, climate change and environmental crisis are pretty much of a very important subject for all of us to be very concerned about our well-being or our existence on this earth. So similarly, our mothers at home, when they are going through a turbulent time in their life, the whole family will suffer. And as an individual, for myself, I'm not enjoying the experiences that I'm going through. It's really annoying at times, and feeling like, what's wrong with me? But at the same time, when I am able to, thanks to my teacher, that I'm able to, apply all the techniques of meditation practices, which of course we do that practice in order to be able to establish equanimity in our daily way of life. So how we do that is by observing what I'm going through emotionally, physically, socially, however other ways we can think of. So I felt that this is something that I'm going through as a process of being as being born as a human being, and in the form of a female. And then I started to think about how can I pacify these symptoms that I'm going through, and it's really unpleasant. But of course, frequently, I do apply all those techniques of meditation to be very aware and observant about how I'm feeling and why it is happening. Of course, the knowledge of knowing that what I'm going through is menopause. As of being born in a female form, physical body, we have to go through this as you reach certain age?
Journey, which started around 3 years ago. I was married, and when menopause hit me, I stopped taking the contraceptive pill, and it hit me like an avalanche of symptoms. 2 weeks later, my entire life changed. I had insomnia, I had night sweats, which if anyone's experienced that, it's not like anything you can imagine. I had brain fog. I would just walk into a room and forget what I was doing there. And many, many other symptoms, including depression. And of course, like Annie said, it affected my relationship. I think it exacerbated a lot of issues that we had, and I did end up going through a divorce. And this time of my life was so many things all at once. My father passed away, many things like all together became even more exacerbated in terms of my mental health due to the menopause, and this is something that many people don't talk about, mental health at this time of the life in men and women, because it affected my husband also quite severely, and so much so that we couldn't survive it. And yeah, so I think like basically I had this dream ever since 2007 when I first climbed a 8,000 meter peak in the Himalaya, Cho-O-U. And during that expedition, I did have a climbing partner, a man, and he made a few bad decisions and ended up staying in the base camp because of an injury. And I went to the summit alone without oxygen. No one else summited the day I summited. And I just discovered that I had a superpower. And I didn't know that I had this superpower, you know, like prior to this I had spent a lot of time, like 3 years guiding and climbing in the Andes in the South America. So I knew that I had some talent at high altitude, but I didn't realize that I could go that high, 8,200 meters. Without using the bottled oxygen until then. And I came away from the Himalaya with a dream to climb all of the 14 8,000 meter peaks in the world in the same way without using oxygen.
All high caste panel. So I think being on the margins through any axis puts you at a disadvantage, you feel anxious, you feel insecure. In the case of women, in addition to all of that, you also get sick. So I think the discussion that is happening today here, as you said in your opening remarks, is historical. And for me it is very important because my children have been telling me that I have been in menopause for a long time. Because they noticed that I was having mood swings, so they gifted me menopause tea. And I thought it was a mistake. But in my practice in different countries, I see some common trends which are very worrying, where menopause is a part of that, where the continuum of women's health is actually hampering progress and development in most countries. And when you link it with the axis of corruption and women's health, then it is a catastrophe. In my work, in my previous life as a medical doctor, I saw how poorly prepared we were as medical students to deal with women's health. So in general, the development of medical science is based on the male anatomy and the male physiology. Even the experiments that are done, the clinical trials are done on male animals because the female hormonal cycle is regarded as too unpredictable and bringing in too many variables. So it's too much of a headache. So we have cases around the world where women have suffered because clinical trials have not been run on women, We've had cases of road accidents in high numbers where women were taking sleeping pills and were having accidents because the sleeping pills were tested on men and the dose that was administered was the same between men and women, whereas the metabolism of men and women is different. So men woke up at 7 o'clock totally refreshed, ready to drive. Women were still, their livers were still working on the drug. So they were having accidents at 8 a.m. So that is the case with so many illnesses. We saw how in medical school, we were not taught how to diagnose symptoms that are typical men.
Be gutsy enough to say no more shits in their life. So I think that's what I'm going through, and the reason why I really want my fellow sisters to understand is that nothing is wrong with you. We need to educate more of our children, of course, especially the boys, because of our condition. They are also disturbed in their life. They feel unloved. They feel like targeted. They feel stinged, you know. So out of compassion, practice of compassion, I think we should be a little bit more kind and compassionate. Of course, which usually we are, but we have to be skillfully compassionate, not ignorantly and stupidly compassionate. So I think it's time to wake up and say, yes, what I'm going through is natural, but I will definitely try my best not to cause much more damages in the relationships or the children's mind, psychology. So I think that's how I ended up becoming more aware of it and talk to people about it. Wherever I am given chance, I'm nowadays talking about menopause. I always tell my fellow brothers, please, please, please be kind to your women, your mother, your sisters. They're not by nature bad or rude or cruel or, bitch. It's just that they're going through some difficult time. So as we believe in saying that charity begins at home, you should start with your family members. Please be kind.
So I want to narrate my experience as a husband whose wife went through menopause. So we went to Norway when she started getting symptoms, and Dr. Azla Vaidya told her for about a year take medicine. If that doesn't heal, then she should go for uterus removal. So I think that was fine. She took the medicines for about a year, but still not much improved. Then she suggested to remove uterus, and I think that time it was difficult for her to go through surgery. So as a husband and our son Sabas, who is 24-year-old now, we were kind of well prepared by Dr. Vaidya, because he told us there will be a lot of mood swings. She will sweat a lot. So we were just doing what we thought. We were not irritating her, and we were trying to be more active in kitchen than before. So our son became more active, and I was washing, he was cooking. So we wanted Samdana to get more freer time for herself, and what she enjoyed doing, so we wanted her to do what she enjoyed.
Having various people sort of cross my path, all with this same theme to bring to us. I simply wanted to say that I think in Kathmandu Valley, there is probably here no better place to be having this conversation. We know that immediately outside this hotel there are shrines to the Ashtamatrika, to the Ajimas, to the Mandalic mothers. These are places where our community here prays for the protection and guardianship from female goddesses. And I hope in that same way that today's conversation is another act of celebration of women and of the worship of the power of female energy at all stages of a woman's life. I hope that this is the first of many such conversations. Thank you, Sanor, for making that plug for Champions. Unfortunately, I cannot stay more than another 3 months, but in this room I feel that we have, about 80 champions from tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Handsome,